The video that you're about to watch is an excerpt from a live webinar. If you enjoy the contents of this video, please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for watching. Can we do a healing for peace? Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. This is one of my sweethearts from France. Thank you. Thank you. This one is a very quiet prayer. It's like a quiet prayer in our hearts. This healing for peace. I'll unpack it as it goes along. Awareness goes deep, deep, deep down, because the separation that's responsible for the bubbling up of national and international conflicts is seated very, very deep in the field of consciousness, far beyond the individual level, but down at the collective level. So down in that causal body, like deep into that causal body. It's a really big one. It's a big one. It's seated as a structure in the causal body that I'm taking a read on it. I'm getting underneath it. So I'm looking at it more as a little lost lamb, even though it's clearly, obviously big as well. It's absolutely pumped up with power. It's so pumped up with power. It's so pumped up with power and resentment. And I'm just analyzing. We're looking at it. We're defining it. We're kind of like defining its edges, right? We're figuring out, well, how big is it and how much are we dealing with here? So power and arrogance and all kinds of justifications that are essentially protecting its right to feel separate. The justifications are there protecting the feeling of separation, getting into kind of a creative relationship with the feeling of separation at a collective level. Seated awareness in totality. That separation that's being so carefully protected is being like quarantined or separated from the collective field. We're shining our light on it. It's a fighter, that one. Fighting for its right to remain separate. Justifying any type of wrong behavior based on the self-definition of being anything but the source of creation. Because the source of creation is just all goodness and all life-supporting and all sweet and all nurturing and comforting and blissful and evolutionary. So it's everything but that. But that means is that it's not evolutionary. It's not evolving. And this form is saying, no, I'm evolving. I'm experiencing kind of like a false sense of evolution. It feels like it's this lust for power thing is like, well, I can gain power. I'm just saying what I'm hearing, like I'm in dialogue, like we're in dialogue with this big international dark energy. It says, I gain power through my state of being separate. Because I'm separate, I gain power through that experience. And the power that I have is fast and it's immediate and it's really intense and it's very kind of sucking. It's like it sucks a lot of energy out of the collective, and it doesn't really, what the form is getting individually feels like a lot to it, but the amount of cost, the cost for that power is really, 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 really high. And so a lot more energy is lost than is actually gained, which is the difference between power attained through dark means versus power attained through the light, right? When we attain power through the light, the attainment of power creates more energy. When you attain power through darkness, you destroy energy, you destroy life force. And what that means is that it's like a person who's got their ladder leaning against the branch of a tree, and they're cutting the tree branch, but as soon as they cut that branch, the branch is going to fall and the ladder is going to fall and they're going to fall too. It's like that. It's like their means of gaining power is actually destroying the sources of their power as they're doing it. It's a very, very temporary situation. It's very, very, very temporary. So now, of course, in cosmic terms, it's very temporary. In human terms, depending on how people handle it, right? It could be temporary or it could take a long time. So, what we want in order to create peace as a healing for the peace is we want the collective, all the individuals that are interacting, especially those that are interacting directly with this energy, for their awareness to become very, very abstract and subtle. So they see the failure in their ways, first of all, that they're gaining power based on a process that actually is ultimately going to destroy them. But also catching that sense of separation early at a collective level. It has to be caught at a collective level early so that it is escorted home. We can do that. We are that collective. You and I, all of us here, we are that collective who catches that darkness early, sees it more like a little lost lamb, and creating the pathway for it to return from the subtle levels of creation. As that happens, I see something like a scritching kind of an energy as it's sort of contracting out of the relative field of expression, because a lot of people's karma is tied up with that. For some people, the lack of peace provides an opportunity for them to pay karmic debts, or to be, you could say, directed back into alignment with their evolutionary path in a very dynamic way, sudden, and maybe uncomfortable way. And for some people, they chose that. That was part of their life path, and they needed it, and they wanted it, and they wanted to do it that way. And I'm just asking, being, if these people don't pay off their karmic debt and become realigned with natural law through uncomfortable means of war or lack of peace, are there other means by which they can resolve that particular issue that doesn't actually involve the horribleness of war, the great destruction of war? And the answer is absolutely. But in some cases, it's not as fast. And for a lot of people, they want answers now, and they want the solution now, and they don't want to wait around. And they'd rather go through the pain now to get their answers than to take a slower, more royal path through their karma. And that's the point where the understanding of the way evolution unfolds needs to be revealed more completely for those individuals, so that they realize that it's not a race. It's not a race. It is a path of grace, not a race. Reverence, reverence, reverence. More of that. That's the fundamental. That's the fundamental that's rising up to create the richa that seeks out those individuals who are they have attachments to the lack of peace. Reverence. It's flowing. It's flowing. It's good. We let it go back to the source. The whole healing, the whole process we just went through, offered back to the source of creation.